what's going on in the world today, then you've come to the right place. Welcome to Southern Sense Talk Radio with your host, Annie, the Radio Chick-A-Dee, and featuring Curtis C.S. Bennett and the most interesting guests that you'll find anywhere on internet radio. So sit back, relax, and remember, Southern Sense is common sense.
Welcome back to another adventure here on Southern Sense Live. You're listening and watching to us on, I don't know, Facebook, X, Twitter, Twitch, whatever you want to call it. Our website, southernsense.net. I'm your hostess with the least most, is the Radio Chick-A-Dee, Annie. And of course, I could never start off a show without messing it up, along with my co-host going, what the heck is she doing to me today, Curtis C.S. Bennett?
That would be me.
Oh man, what a week we've had. What a year we have had. This has been more than a year in making, and we now have President-elect Donald J. Trump, President number 47 of these United States of America. And I think vast majority of us sighed a collective sigh of relief. Whoa, what a road. What a road.
Yeah, it's long coming. We had numbers like I'd never seen before because I worked the polls, as you know. And
Yeah.
I mean, we were just killing it. I mean, people after people. And on the last day, we had over 45 new voters. Most of them young people. And I have it since they came out to vote for Trump.
You know, we're going to be talking about all that, the stats and everything else that go along with it, because we got Mark Tapscott for the Epoch Times, or as I say, the Epic Times, drives him a little crazy. We're going to be talking about all the stats that came up. Matter of fact, I was sending him the information about the show, and he was on a train. He was boarding in Penn Station, Manhattan, to head back to D.C. He had just done a round of interviews. So we're going to get the in-depth scoop of what has been going on. I got to tell you, though, I know that I spoke to the audience about this the last couple of shows, that here in my own county, we were fighting a sales tax. And just before coming on air, I was reading a update from our county GOP chair, and I kind of like started crying because he mentioned my name in the letter, and he said it was because of my efforts we soundly defeated that sales tax. So right now the county chair is crying in his oatmeal.
Well, you know, here in Florida we had two amendments that raised concerns among conservatives. One was Amendment 3, which would have made it legal to have recreational marijuana. And the other one was about the abortion issue. And I mean, they meant to put it in our Constitution. Both failed. And I knew they would. But it just goes to show that the left never gives up. They work slow, methodic, and they are, resilient. And they'll come back at us again. But we'll be ready.
What's really funny is we finally learned from the Democrats. We finally said, well, this is what's working for you. Let's do the same thing. It's legal to start getting people out, to encourage them to get out to vote early. It's legal to knock on doors. It is legal to go into neighboring states or other states to help with their election efforts if they find that they need assistance in pulling voters out. These are all legal things that the Democrats have been doing since the turn of the century. And we are just starting in the last couple of decades, starting to learn to pick up. We had people letter writing, phone calling, texting, postcarding, knocking on doors, leaving door hangers. The very things the Democrats are so good at, we finally learned. And look at the benefit that we reaped.
I believe the fact that Trump asked everybody to vote early voting, and I mean come out in droves, so it would be too big to rig. That worked too, because at the end they couldn't make up all of that. by,
No.
drawing it out for days and weeks. It was conclusive for almost from the beginning where they were
Well,
losing.
Well, last week we had Hans von Spakovsky on here, and one of the things he was concerned about was the absentee ballots, which I agree with. And there were some landmark court rulings about the absentee ballots. If they're not properly dated and signed, they're not valid ballots. This is how the left was able to push a lot of these through, and it was a tighter control on the absentee ballots, not 100%. Nothing ever is going to be 100%. But we got it down pretty damn good this time around. We still have Arizona. Last I saw, I think it was 75% of the vote was in on Arizona. So Carrie Lake, she's still slightly behind. And, you're not talking about a lot of votes here. And when I was looking, it's 1.5% she's behind the Democrat. That's about 40,000 votes.
Well, you have to wonder. You got a state like Florida and our great population. You got New York and California. All those are in. What's taking Arizona so long?
Well, they have a liberal that is in charge of, was it the state attorney general, whatever it is, whoever Carrie Lake was challenging on this, and happens to be a liberal. And until they can close their elections, like we have here and you have in your state, I believe it's 27 states have tightened their elections. And then you have states like New York and California and Arizona that are having problems doing that because of look at the leadership they have there. So until we can change that in the ballot box, we have to keep on chipping at it. We're just so close. But we do have the House, we have the Senate, and we have the White House.
Well, I'll tell you what, I don't think the Democrats want to do any election integrity. They don't win that way. And you see what happened. I mean, what I'm hearing now, there's a difference of 15 or 18 million votes that the Democrats had like 4 years ago, which we know they cheated. But, what happened with those this time? You mean 18 million people didn't come out to vote for the Democrats?
Or they switched over because we won the popular vote by more than 5 million.
Or those were fake ballots.
That's a possibility too. It's a possibility. There was some questions about some of the absentee ballots and the handling of them. But again, from what I'm hearing, the reports I'm hearing, they were far and few between. Not as bad as it was 4 years ago. Thank heaven, not as bad as 4 years ago. So again, all these things we're going to talk about with our friend Mark Tapscott. I want to welcome everyone back to our show. And I have to, if my sister was still living nearby, I would have throttled her because she called up and I just stepped out of the shower. And she goes, are you crying yet? I'm going, what are you talking about? Because the last thing I know, I went to bed and Trump was president-elect. I just got out of the shower. What are you talking about? She goes, are you crying yet? And she's teasing me. And I was like, no, just tell me something didn't happen overnight. But did you see that there is this music venue? I forget where it was, but it caters to the LGBT community, and they're having a scream night. So they're going to stop all the music, and you can get up there and just scream your head because Kamala Harris didn't win. and then Newsmax last night. I'm sorry, I shouldn't be laughing, but I am because it is funny. They were playing all these TikTok videos of people that went up on TikTok crying and screaming because Kamala Harris didn't win.
I'll tell you what's funny. Those snowflakes that had to get a day off from their class at Harvard and places like that because they needed a day to mourn and grieve. Bunch of snowflakes, and these supposed to be our future leaders.
Well, the amazing thing is again, we're going to talk about this with Mark Tapscott, that the Democrat that showed up in record numbers, believe it or not, were 18 to 29-year-olds to vote for Trump. All these kids that were indoctrinated all these years under our school system are now entering into adulthood and finally realizing the job market, the housing market, if they want to get married or have children, the economy is just not going to support any choice for a future family. And it hit them home. Why can't I have the life that my parents have? Why can't I enjoy the fruits of my labor the way my parents have been able to do it in the past? And now their parents are all entering into senior citizens, and now they have to take care of their parents because now the pensions are gone. They're not getting the benefits they should be getting in Social Security or anywhere else. And they see their savings and their stocks accounts dropping. I mean, I was talking to someone today about redoing some of my finances because I said, over the last 3 months, I have not been able to put any money aside in savings. And this is the first time I would say in about a good 8 years, I have not been able to put any money aside in savings. And that scares me. So
Well,
hopefully we're going to see the economy start to turn around.
see, they can relate to what's going on in the world. You got the elitists like Joe Scarborough, who didn't know that butter costs around $7 because he doesn't shop. He got somebody else do his shopping. And that's the problem with the elitists on the left. They're not attached to the reality that the people are. And people know that they're suffering. And when they hear the Biden administration saying that, oh, the economy is strong, it's good, you know, there's no need to worry. They're like, what the heck you talking about, man? I go in the store, I give them a $10 bill, and I still owe them $1. I can't even get a Big Mac for under $8.
No. A matter of fact, we have several grocery stores in close proximity. So when I go out to the grocery stores, I'm constantly comparing prices. And I'm looking to buy a dozen eggs. And if you're lucky, if you can get them for less than $4, you got yourself a steal. And I have this uncanny knack at times to walk in at just the right time. So I bought a dozen and a half eggs 2 weeks ago. And I paid $3.99 for a dozen and a half. I said, I'm snatching. I grabbed two cartons of that. So that lasted me 2 weeks. And today I'm looking yesterday actually in the refrigerator. I'm saying, oh, I only have 8 eggs left. Maybe I should see about getting another carton. And I said, well, let me try this other grocery store. And sure enough, because a new store had opened up nearby, their prices dropped to go into competition. I picked up the damn dozen and a half eggs for $3.29, and I am so proud of myself.
Well, I could do you one better. I got a friend that has some hens. So I get some free eggs sometimes.
But this is what you find yourself doing. And unfortunately, it used to be 10, 15 years ago, you would get coupons in the Sunday paper. You clip the coupons, you compare the circulars, and you would circle, all right, go here and here and here. And I would map it out. And I would save myself easily on one shopping trip $200. And I would stock my freezers and refrigerator. But go ahead.
Do you remember that? What was it? S&H, some kind of stamps?
S&H Foods. Yeah. Yes.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
What happened to that? I remember that.
It went the way of the dodo bird.
The grocery stores would give you stamps to redeem later.
Yeah, and absolutely. Well, anyway, moving along. Again, want to thank everyone that's joining us up in the chat rooms, up on Facebook and Twitter and YouTube, as well as those that are going onto my homepage, which is southernsense.net. We are live in stream over there also, so you can join us in that chat room too. I got to remember to check it every often. I'm not good at that, but we'll get better at this one. But those that listen and watch to our show know that we start each and every show with a dedication to a fallen hero. And today's dedication is going out to Police Officer Jamal Mitchell of the Minneapolis Police Department, Minnesota. His end of watch was Thursday, May 30th of 2024.
We're also learning more details tonight about the killing of a Minneapolis police officer. The Bureau of Criminal Apprehension saying Officer Jamal Mitchell offered to help the suspect, asking if he was hurt. when that man opened fire without warning.
Fox 9's Courtney Godfrey joining us now in the studio. So Courtney, Mitchell was responding to reports of a shooting on Blaisdell Avenue when officials say he was ambushed. What have we learned tonight?
Yeah, that's right, Amy. We're now learning Mitchell was the first responding officer on the scene that day and that he radioed in saying he observed 2 men with injuries in the street. The BCA detailing how he then approached Mustafa Muhammad, who was sitting next to a parked car, and asked if he was hurt or needed help. That's when officials say Muhammad pulled out a gun and shot Mitchell at close range, continuing to shoot him until backup arrived, then shooting at those officers who returned fire, eventually killing him. The exchange of gunfire captured on cell phone video in what we now know was likely responding officers Nick Capinos and Luke Kiddock engaging with the suspect who had just shot their colleague in an ambush attack.
As he was attempting to provide assistance to them, medical assistance, he was ambushed.
Today, the Bureau of Criminal Apprehension going into further detail, saying Mitchell was the first to respond to reports of a shooting at the apartment on Blaisdell just after 5 p.m. on Thursday, radioing back that he saw 2 injured people on the street. When he approached 35-year-old Mustafa Muhammad and asked if he was hurt or needed help, Muhammad pulled out a handgun and shot the officer without warning.
There are not words to appropriately describe this tragedy because they just don't exist. This is the worst call a police chief can get.
In an early morning press conference following the shooting, Police Chief Brian O'Hara praised Mitchell's heart for policing.
Jamal loved the job, he loved the MPD, and he was faithful to the oath that he swore unto his death.
The shooter was a convicted felon with 2 active warrants for his arrest at the time of the killing, while Mitchell was a beloved father, engaged to be married, described by those who knew him as the kind of cop the community needed.
He was the embodiment of what true community service was about.
You know, he looked at me and he said, I just want to have an impact. And when he told me that, who am I to say, I'm not going to vouch for this guy? Like, of course I am. He's an incredible human.
Mitchell himself telling Fox 9 in an interview last year that he became a cop because he wanted to help.
So I'm here to serve the community of Minneapolis.
This after he pulled an elderly couple out of a burning home.
That's why I got into law enforcement, to do what I can, save lives, serve the community.
Now forever serving as a model of heroism. Authorities have still not said who shot the people inside the apartment building that prompted that initial call. Amy?
Thank you, Courtney. Meantime, today, the Minneapolis Police Department held a small vigil and procession for Officer Jamal Mitchell. The 36-year-old's body was taken from the medical examiner's office to a funeral home. It was a smaller, scaled-down procession that was at the request of Officer Mitchell's family.
We already knew that Jamal Mitchell was a hero. From the very first days on the job, he was saving people's lives, running into burning buildings, saving elderly couples, and that's what he was doing at the very end as well. He was trying to help somebody. He was trying to provide care to a person that ended up killing him.
And a few hours after today's procession, at the scene of last week's shooting, a crowd gathered to pray for peace. Among them, the 911 dispatchers who took the call last Thursday, along with neighbors and other law enforcement.
Meantime, we are learning more about the Officer Mitchell, and how he never hesitated to risk himself to help others.
Our Saquon joins us now live from the Hennepin County Medical Examiner's Office with his story. Say good morning.
Hey, good morning to you. Yeah, just such a tragic time for the Minneapolis Police Department and really law enforcement agencies all across the country. Jamal Mitchell's body is at the medical examiner's office right now, and I'm going to step aside here so you can see what we're looking at. Law enforcement officials have asked that we stay off site right now. The parking lot you can see packed with several squad cars at the moment. First responders taking turns keeping watch, and they will be staying here until he is laid to rest. Now, hundreds of emergency responders lined up for an emotional processional last night, escorting Officer Mitchell from the hospital to the medical examiner's office. We know many community members also came out to show their support along the way. And just last year, Mitchell and fellow officers saved an elderly couple from a burning home near Bennett, Makaska. Despite flames shooting from the roof and through the windows, they heroically ran in to get the couple to safety.
He was a hero. I've never met an officer that received an award on the third day on the job during his FTO. He's courageous in every action that he did. He was a wonderful human being. He had only been on our department about 1.5 years, and he was exceptional in every way.
Yeah, a true hero. We did catch up with Mitchell shortly after he received his award, and he told us he was just doing his job.
We're thankful to he was able to read the scene and get there and do what we can to save lives. And that's what I signed up to. That's why I got into law enforcement, to do what I can, save lives, serve the community.
Again, that was Officer Mitchell speaking to Fox 9 last February. This morning, Mitchell is being remembered as a hero, a father, a son, and fiance. Now, we did also learn a second Minneapolis police officer was hurt in this incident as well. Minneapolis Police Chief Brian O'Hara speaking out, saying they have since been released from the hospital. Of course, more information is expected to come out in the coming days. Guys.
All right. Safe one for us there, Live. Thank you.
Thank you, Sam. BCA is expected to release more information on the shooting in the coming days. We will have continuing coverage both on air and online at fox9.com.
Let it be said, when we finish this race, we kept them free, we led with grace. Let it be seen, from sea to shining sea, beautiful America, living our legacy. Oh, Father, mother, sister, brother, oh, we gotta learn to love each other. Oh, for the soul of the nation, for the next generation. Let us be known as people of honor, humble and bold, faithful through fire. Let us hold firm to our convictions with wide open hearts, eager to listen. Oh, father, mother, sister, brother, oh, we gotta learn to love each other. Oh, for the soul of the nation, for the next generation. Let us make room. Let us reimagine, welcoming voices with true compassion. Let's craft a world with hopes and dreams, challenges known and those still unseen. Oh, father, mother, sister, brother, oh, we gotta learn to love each other. Oh, for the soul of the nation, for the next generation. Let us be sure, when our time has come, we gave them hope, we made them strong. Let it be said, when we finish this race, we kept them free. sister, brother. Oh, we gotta learn to love each other. Oh, for the soul of the nation, for the next generation.
All right, and that was Tiffany, Soul of the Nation. And we're back. You're here watching and listening to Southern Sense Live. I'm your hostess with the least, mostest, the Radio Chick-A-Dee, Annie, along with my author and co-host, Curtis C.S. Bennett. You can find us at southernsense.net. Or if you got the old website, southern-sense.com, that still works too. Hey, listen, one of the major things I was listening to on the news, and you got to pardon me, my chair got all switched around here, was the lawfare that's been going on against Trump and anyone associated with Trump. And there was an interesting article in the Epoch Times yesterday. Sam Dorman had posted it. And it looks like these lawfare things that are going on, especially with Jack Smith, may be dropped. We know that there's problems with the Fannie Willis prosecution. We know there's problems with the prosecution in New York. But the Jack Smith may be going the way of the dodo bird also. The article said that the Heritage Foundation Vice President John Malcolm had told it in an interview to the Epoch Times that they have already moved to dismiss the indictment. All they would have to do is supplement it on a basis of separation of powers. Now, if you remember in a 2000 memo, the Department of Justice legal counsel had stated that indictment or criminal prosecution of a sitting president would unconstitutionally undermine the capacity of the executive branch to perform its constitutionally assigned functions. Now, the premise is that a sitting president and a president-elect should be treated in the same manner, which it's an interesting concept because here you have someone duly elected and the election will be certified and he will be sworn in as president of the United States. And the question is that once he has been duly elected and certified, is he to be considered a sitting president on the same basis as the sitting president? It's an interesting concept.
Yeah, but either way, I believe they have really no legal standings in some of these cases because you have a state that's trying to preside over something that should be a federal. And it's just not going to
Not only that, not a felony.
You're right.
Not even a felony. It would be a violation or at best a misdemeanor and punishable by a fine, not imprisonment.
And in one of the cases, there's not even a complainee.
Well, that's the one in New York.
Right. So
Judge Chuck was not even a victim.
Right.
Who was a victim of this crime. And we have the one, the only, if he wasn't married, and if I wasn't married, Mark Tapscott.
I'm staying out of this.
Yeah, that's take it easy there.
Well, my sister called me and she was teasing me because I just stepped out of the shower. I had not turned on the news. And she goes, "Are you crying yet?" And I'm thinking back to 2020. Did something happen overnight that I wasn't aware of? Oh, she is so mean.
No,
when I get to see her, I'm going to be slapping her silly. Not. She's younger and stronger than me. But I mean, we're talking about this, and the one thing that my husband pointed out to me was that what you don't see in this is that you don't see us actually gloating. We're not out there rioting in the streets. We're not out there shoving people's faces in it. We're going about our daily business like any other normal day. And I guess it's because we're all breathing a collective sigh of relief because now it's over.
I think probably there's also, excuse me, Ann, there's also, Ann Curtis, good to see you back, man.
All right.
There is an element of exhaustion in it because,
Oh, yeah.
my
Emotional.
gosh, this campaign just went on and on and on and on, and there was something new every time you turned around.
Yeah, that is so very true. And one of the things I found that come Tuesday when I woke up and I'm going over all our county results, because I fought a really hard fight here against the sales tax, and it really took a lot out of me because I went from one end of the county to the other to addressing groups and to informing them about what this issue was. I was doing interviews, I was writing editorials, I was talking to news staff saying, hey, listen, when you go to write this article, are you aware of XYZ? And it got to the point where they didn't even know that I had a legal challenge to the sales tax because there's one question that wasn't put on the ballot validly. Yeah. And I talked to an election attorney up in upstate Columbia, and he says, if this does pass, you have the right to sue. You've got valid grounds. And I don't think they wanted to see that consequence. But like I said, it's so many people put so much work into this.
Yeah. Does South Carolina have a proposition, or a ballot proposition like California?
We had it for putting on our Constitution, amending it to state that you must be 18 years of age and a U.S. citizen to register to vote in any election.
Yeah.
Any election. So not like New York, where if you're not a citizen, you can vote in local elections, or California.
Yeah.
But you must prove that you are a U.S. citizen and 18 years of age to vote in any election.
Yeah.
And that passed.
And your sales tax effort succeeded?
It did. Oh, we killed it. We killed it by 11% of the vote. So
there's never enough citizens, not politicians, not journalists, not, professional policy advocates. There's never enough in the way of citizens being involved actively at the local level, the state, and the federal level. We need much more of it.
That's what we saw, because Georgia was turned because there were people from my state that was going down to Georgia. They were knocking on doors. They were mailing postcards. They were manning, information booths. They were doing anything. And I'm sure people from Florida were coming up into Georgia doing the same thing. There were massive efforts, and we were sending people into Pennsylvania and other states to help them get out the vote. My county alone, we aimed for 75% of registered voters to show up. We met our goal.
Yeah.
Have you ever known an election where 75% of registered voters showed up?
I tell you, that is one of the amazing things, and there's a bunch of things about this election that I didn't expect to see happen. And the way the Republicans in a number of states were able to just explode their registration totals. That's unique, and that is exactly the kind of involvement that changes the course of a country.
Well, as you know, we defeated 2 amendments in Florida. Amendment 3, which would have made recreational marijuana legal, and Amendment 4, the abortion thing. And the people came out. Now, to your point earlier, when you said people were breathing a sign of relief, for me, this thing goes way back to like 2015, when he announced that he's going to run. And I mean, they've been after Trump ever since.
Oh yeah.
And like now, finally, if we get both houses, well, we got the Senate, and I'm sure we're going to get the House.
Yeah.
It's over with.
That much.
The prosecution, of Trump.
Yeah.
Well, now, what I love is Trump hit the ground running. He had a celebration that night. He also then made a decision, I think, that night, but he reached out to Susie Wiles, and she had been quietly working in the background, and I read a lot of information on her. I didn't even know who she was. I don't think the nation knew who she was until that night, because I was wondering who this woman was standing behind him in the off-white. And now the nation knows who his new chief of staff is going to be. This is excuse me. I apologize, but this is a first. Have a female chief of staff to the president,
Absolutely.
to have someone that was the motivating person behind his campaign, and to be so successful, but to have overwhelming support from everyone that worked with him.
Yeah.
And no one's pushing for anyone else. They said she's the one.
Well, I think probably Susie should, give Mark Cuban a call and tell him thanks, because when Cuban said, hey, you never see Trump with tough as nails women, I suspect it occurred to Trump, well, I'll show you, here's a tough as nails woman, and she's going to be my White House staff.
Well,
as it happens, I worked with Susie when we were both very young political types. This is long before my journalism career. We worked together in the Reagan campaign in 1980, and I'm not a bit surprised to see that she's gone a long, long ways.
Yeah, well, she comes from very strong stock, and I put this together just for you, Mark, because the familial similarity between her and her father are just astounding.
Yes.
And here we go. Can you not tell? This is Pat Summerall's daughter.
Yep.
I put this about half an hour before going on air. I says, I can't resist this one.
Yeah.
But she comes from good, sturdy stock. And I guess he taught her very well.
Oh, he did. And I suspect that Susie will be, I think she'll probably be controversial, because it's tough. It's difficult to be effective in that particular job without making a lot of decisions that make a lot of people mad at you. And Susie has a bit of a combative, behind the scenes personality, and that will add to it. Curtis, you probably know more about Susie than either of us. But she was
from Jacksonville. Yeah. Now you hear the left always talking about women and how they seem to be on the side of women. And it seems like women are only good to serve their purposes when they need them. Like now they want to push out a Supreme Court justice, a woman. And
that's not going to happen.
Sort of I don't think so. But just to think, to save the party, their choice of the next Supreme Court justice, you have to go. You have to retire. She didn't say I signed on for this.
When I first heard that talk, where did that come from? If the three liberals on the court, the only way they will be leaving the court in the next 4 years is if they die and they take them out on a stretcher. They're not going to leave, not as long as Trump is the guy who is going to appoint their successor. I wouldn't be surprised if Clarence Thomas decides maybe to retire at some point in the near future. But you're not going to see Sotomayor or either of the other two. I would be amazed if they did.
No, I actually see Clarence Thomas, especially with the crap he's been taking under this previous administration, or not yet previous, but soon to be previous administration. The social media attacks, the personal attacks. If he were to, so I would not hesitate to see that. But we've seen some interesting turnovers also in battleground states, and the results from the battleground states. And all right, I wrote down the question here, and I said, what did the pollsters get wrong and why?
Well, I'll give you one thing. I'll give you one big thing, which I think is in some very serious ways the most significant data point of this election. Among voters from households with $50,000 or less dollars of income, annual income, Trump carried them.
They went for Trump.
That's I'm sure that is predominantly union households, and it reflects the leadership, the rank and file types who, the leadership of the UAW and the leadership of the other big major unions, they're all in bed with the Democrats. And the rank and file guys are the ones that see the jobs going away. And, you know, I mean, there is a split there that is profound. And when you add what Trump did with that particular group, with his increases in black votes and Hispanics, he also increased his vote percentage with Asians.
Yeah, and
you're talking about a possible realignment in American politics here.
Yeah, and then 18 to 29-year-olds, a
18 to
Democrat
29-year-olds,
that was traditionally Democrat. And as I was talking with Curtis earlier, this is the generation that came up under indoctrination, that grew up with DEI, that grew up with all of this social engineering.
Yeah,
basically.
You know why? You know, I there's probably no way to prove it or disprove it, but I really think maybe that especially with the younger voters, the moment right after Trump was shot and he emerged from the Secret Service guys all trying to protect him, and he's got blood on his face and he's pointing his finger and he's saying, "Fight, fight, fight." I think that there are an awful lot of young guys in this country that said, "I'll follow that guy." You know, they saw courage in action.
Well, there's a talk of the demasculation of the American male that's been going on for now a couple of decades. And what I saw on the left, especially with Scarborough, about the misogyny of this, the misogyny of black males, the misogyny of Hispanic males, and you know, everything's misogyny, this and that. And I think the young men growing up and going, wait a minute, my body and mind is saying something completely different than from what you're saying. And the women out there are looking for men, and they're not finding them out there.
Well, I know that's true because my wife told me I could say that it was true.
Yes, dear. Yes, dear.
Girly men out there.
Yeah.
I think another reason a lot of young people came over to Trump is because young people are into high tech right now.
Yes.
And who does Trump has as an ally right now that's high tech? Yep. Elon Musk.
And don't forget Joe Rogan.
Mm-hmm.
Joe Rogan is he's kind of the Huntley and Brinkley of names that our generation knew. Mm-hmm. Kind of becoming that level of influencer through podcast. And
right, an impact which
Trump Hollywood 3 hours with him.
Hollywood
3 minutes with him.
Yeah, Hollywood celebrities don't have that kind of connection.
Yeah. Now that's old school.
Well, I think that celebrity disconnect is what also hurt her more, because she had everyone come out for the concerts and everything else, and then when everyone left, she would show up, but there would be no one left for her to talk to. Unless they kept them behind her on the camera. But they saw something completely different with Trump, because he turned around and he would bring the everyman guy up.
Yes.
Not a celebrity.
He was the main attraction.
Yeah.
Not Beyonce. Not Beyonce.
Yeah. I think I heard earlier this morning that there's apparently some evidence that, you know, Harris raised a phenomenal amount of money, campaign contributions, but there ain't much of it left because Beyonce and some of those other celebrities, you don't get them for cheap.
They were paid.
Yeah.
I heard yesterday she was $2 million in the hole.
Is it 2 million in the hole?
That's what I heard last night, 2 million in the hole. But I will make a note though, because God bless my mom. She has a little flip phone. But she'll get a text on the flip phone. She'll go, can you help me with this? So she got this thing saying, if you donate now, you will get 2 tickets to the Trump inauguration. And I'm going, what? I mean, the election's over. Doesn't campaign finance say that donations have to stop once the election's over? But she was getting, but they can still donate. So it just seemed a little odd that they could guarantee 2 tickets to the inauguration. Because I know when I went as a guest of my congressman, or I should say former congressman, and I'm not hoping to go this time either. But I'm saying, Mom, this doesn't sound right. So I managed to finally send the text to my own phone, and then I pulled it up. It was from Act Blue.
Oh, jeez.
It was from Act Blue. So, folks, if you're out there and you pull up something like this and you see Act Blue on it, trash it.
Yeah.
Trash it. Because they're under investigation for misuse of those credit cards. Some people, I thought one woman was something like around $35,000 they hit her credit card for. One woman had her credit card hit 3,000 times in 24 hours. So no, they will not honor your single $10 or $20 donation. It's going to be far worse than that, folks. So again, there's shenanigans. And we're also finding that people that donated to Trump or to other conservative candidates found their donation going over to the Harris campaign.
Yeah.
And there's people that going, wait a minute, I know I've never donated to a Democrat, but suddenly now my money is going to a Democrat. So folks, be careful about those text messages, emails, whatever. If you see anything with that blue, trash it.
Yeah. Annie, Curtis, forgive me, but I have an editor. I'm at the newsroom. I have an editor that's doing this to me. Something's going on.
Well, we'll see you in 2 weeks, Mark. And hey, go Trump.
All right.
All right, Mark Tapscott, check him out at Epoch Times, theepochtimes.com, where he is a managing editor and the DC correspondent. And he literally was texting me from getting ready to board the train from Manhattan down to DC last night. So I've known him actually since before he started working with the Epoch Times or some of the other newspapers, when he formed Hill Faith. I always want to say Faith Hill, that's a singer, Hill Faith, where he had a group that would go into the Hill and sit down and have prayer sessions. So that when these senators and congressmen were going to go and do their debates and talk their legislation or go into their committees, they were centered in their faith. Which is something that we need to bring back to the Hill. And I think that we're seeing that with Mike Johnson, too.
Yep. And I hope we get people in Congress that got a backbone. They got no excuse now. If they own both houses, there's no reason why Trump cannot get his agenda across. I mean, even Joe Biden seemed to be happy yesterday. I mean, he was smiling and everything. I mean, I guess his undermining of the Harris campaign worked.
Well, whatever it is, I'm sure Jill Biden's going, I'm not going to be president. I can't sit behind the Resolute desk anymore.
They probably high-fived each other. Yeah, we made her lost, kicking us out.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, we had some great wins. We had Marino, Bernie Marino, who beat out Sherrod Brown out of his seat. Marino, who's born in Colombia, was very, very pro-strong border and immigration. We saw a couple of other upsets going on throughout the nation. We saw the battleground states all go for Trump. And I mean, it has been a phenomenal election cycle. Dave McCormick did get the seat in Pennsylvania. He sends Bob Casey packing after 3 terms. We're still waiting on Carrie Lake. Last I saw, she was just 1.5 points behind her opponent, Galacos, however you pronounce his last name. And they only had, I think, 75 or 79% of the votes counted. So we're going to keep our fingers crossed out there. So we'll have to just wait and see. I mean
Trump even won Miami-Dade County, which is traditionally blue.
Yeah.
Miami area.
And that was one of the early votes that came in. One of the first things that we heard coming across the news, and to have those results that fast, that early. I mean, even my own county didn't have all the results in, and they were already calling Miami-Dade for Trump. That's phenomenal. That is absolutely phenomenal.
Yeah, we had our act together. We had it together.
And I'm listening to Talking Head after Talking Head, mostly male Hispanic, going, I don't understand why the Hispanic vote went to Trump. But yet, when you watched all the interviews prior going up, even interviews being done by liberals, they would have a panel of, say, 6 or 7 Hispanics, male, female, and to a person, they would always say they were voting for Trump. There was even a liberal comedian, I can't think of his name, who put on the complete disguise and pretending to be someone completely different, interviewing them, trying to get them say that they would vote for Harris, doing his best he could. And nothing he said could convince these people to change their vote. So the liberal left underestimated we the people.
I think what they don't want to admit is that it's all about policy, and nobody liked their policies. And the left will not ever seem to admit that no one likes their policies. It's just that we just didn't get the right message out.
No, it's true. But I wrote a editorial I put up on my Substack, and people can go over to Substack and pull it up there. I believe there should be a link on my homepage, southernsense.net. Just click on blog. And it's titled, What We Learn on November 5th. And I thought about this for a little bit, or actually more than a little bit. But this movement, this conservative movement, is not a Trump movement. This started long ago. And it's something that Ronald Reagan picked up on when he felt that he was disenfranchised with the Democratic Party. And he felt them swinging to the left. He left the Democratic Party. And he famously said that I did not leave the Democratic Party. The Democratic Party left me. Traditionally, they were the party of the blue collar guy, the working guy, the middle American. The unhyphenated American, just the people that were just trying to get by and do their everyday thing, take care of the kids, go to church, enjoy their life. But for some reason, suddenly they became the party of the elite, the intelligentsia of Hollywood, who became so disconnected with everyday life that they couldn't tell you how much a thing of butter goes for in the grocery store, when they don't realize that milk is going $5 and eggs are over $4 and butter's going between $6 and $7, depending upon where you live. If it's on New York or California or here in the mid-Atlantic states like we are, you're looking at $4, $5. If they're so disconnected with everyday life, how can they possibly represent me? And Ronald Reagan picked up on this.
I think
Reagan. Well, let me go through my train of thought here, because the Reagan Democrats, the Blue Dog Democrats, understood that, and then they became the moderate Republicans. And Ronald Reagan then carried that through, and for a little while it seemed to fade, and George Bush kind of like let it fade, but somewhere the Tea Parties came around. In 2009, there was an uprising within the heartbeat of America. And a friend of mine, Lloyd Marcus, has passed away a while ago. He was always saying he is the unhyphenated American. And he made a Tea Party anthem song, which is attached to my article up on Substack. And he caught it right. We, the heart of America, the Tea Parties, the conservatives, the 9/11 groups, all those conservative groups that started back in 2009 and 10, the ones that got persecuted and prosecuted by the IRS, who got stifled and shadow banned on social media, we're still out there. Our voices are still fighting. 15 years later, I'm still running a Tea Party. And we have been fighting that underground fight from Ronald Reagan forward. And Trump picked up on that undercurrent. He knew the restless heart of America. He sensed it. And he brought us here today. So this is not a Trump movement. This is the heart of America movement. This is the unhyphenated American movement. It's not male versus female, black versus white, Hispanic, Asian, this or that. It's America. The heartbeat of America, though those of us that believe in individual freedom, that believe in the founding principles, our founders held secure for us in our Constitution. The right to say what we want when we want, and yet still be responsible for what we say. Because if I say something you disagree with, I had better be ready to defend what I have to say. And yet to be tolerant of your ability to counter my argument peacefully, calmly, friendly, as one American to another. And that is what we need to come back to this nation. That's what we need here and now. And that is my rant for today. So read my Substack, please. I'm done. Did I lose you, Curtis?
No, I'm still here. It looks like we got our guest in.
Oh, okay, we got Steve Gorman here. Let's bring him on. All right, Steve, I was in the middle of a rant. I don't know if you caught it.
I didn't. Sorry to be late.
That's all right. It's up on it's up on Substack, and I was saying that this movement that we have was not a Trump movement. It started long before that. It's something that Ronald Reagan picked up on when he left the Democratic Party, and it's been simmering here for decades, for more than 40 years. And I followed it through with the Tea Party movement of 2009 and 10, and how I've been keeping a Tea Party going for the last 15 years. It has always been there simmering, and it has been the heart of America. And it's something Trump felt. He saw it. He knew that this is the battle that must be for the heart of America. And I don't know if you remember Lloyd Marcus. He was part of the Tea Party movement, and he did the Tea Party anthem. And God rest his soul, he was famous for saying, "I am the unhyphenated American."
Okay.
And that's how we have to look at it.
The Obama administration came down on Tea Party groups pretty heavily in many states. Yeah.
Yes. It was 3 of my friends that actually testified before Congress about the IRS attacks on them. Joe Dugan has passed away, Diane Hardy, and I see the third face, and I apologize, I forgot her name. But I remember watching them testify before Congress, because we used to hold the South Carolina Tea Party Coalition Convention every year. And that was shortly after they started that, they went after them. That was in 2011, 2012. I remember it well. Well, anyway, Steve, I came across a bunch of stuff here, and now Trump has made pledges and promises during his campaign, and he's already said he's going to start moving forward with making us energy independent. And already you're hearing the left screaming, "Oh no!" But as I was doing my research last night, it's not just here in the United States we're saying CO2 happens to be a good thing, but in Alberta, Canada, the Conservative Party just passed a resolution saying CO2 is good.
Not a pollutant. Yeah, how about that? I'm sure the Canadian central government doesn't like that.
No, because this article was up in the National Observer, written by Mark Fawcett Atkinson. Why would a man hyphenate his last name anyway? And he's writing an opinion piece, but he's putting it there as if it's an article, how these people are so bad. And they're just following the petroleum industry, saying fossil fuels are bad. But are they really?
Well, they aren't, of course. Are we live yet or taping?
Yes, yeah, we are live. We've been live all along.
Hey, great to join you guys. So, yeah, if you look at all of the tremendous advances over the last 100 years or more, gross domestic product of nations, decline in infant mortality, rise in education levels, those are all very highly correlated with carbon dioxide emissions and with the use of hydrocarbon fuels. It's just been a tremendous, the hydrocarbon revolution, as I talk about in Green Breakdown, has been a tremendous boon for society throughout the last 200 years. And we have many nations that's the developing nations still need to pursue those sorts of things to grow and prosper.
Well, it's because I didn't introduce you properly, so I do apologize. You happen to be the executive director of the Climate Science Coalition of America and a policy advisor for the Heartland Institute. And people can find you at your name, stevegorman.com. And your latest book is a fantastic bestseller, Green Breakdown, Becoming Renewable Energy Failure, which came out last year in New Lenox Books.
Thank you.
Bad girl. But, Gregory Wrightstone is a dear friend of mine, and we had these long conversations that the planet actually was warmer when Christ walked it. When we look at the migration of people, that as the climate warmed, people migrated into different areas because they were able to freely move. This is where civilizations prospered. There was massive birth rates. But as it got cooler and colder, people just kind of like shrank down, lower birth rates, higher death rates. So now I'm reading this editorial, and they're telling us in this editorial, countering the Alberta Conservative Party, saying that they have it backwards. But they're the ones that have it backwards in reality.
Well, you're right. Warmer temperatures are better throughout history, and Mr. Wrightstone is correct as well. We've had many multi-century long periods in the last 10,000 years when it's been warmer than it is today, despite the United Nations saying we're in the age of global boiling, which is really nonsense. And about the time that Christ was on Earth, we had the Roman warming period when they were growing olives in central Germany, and they were producing wine from locally grown grapes in England. And you really can't do that today very well. It was warmer in those days than it is today, and societies prospered.
Well, I can imagine a Roman soldier in England in his little tunic during a snowstorm. No, that would not have happened. Rome would never have made it all the way up to London. But, I always laugh because they turn around and say, well, you've got more hurricanes. You've got more wildfires. You got more of this. First off, they're not taking into consideration the Earth's orbit as it gets closer to the sun, and we also warm that way, or the effect of El Nino, or the effect of mankind getting now more into areas that they normally wouldn't be into, which is causing these forest fires because of careless forestry. They don't take all these things into consideration. But now we also have the media that's reporting on weather pattern changes more than they would have, say, 40 or 50 years ago. So we're more aware of weather patterns, but yet we're still proving them wrong. We don't have more hurricanes, we have less.
Well, that's true. Really, probably about the same amount. It's been a big year this year. We've had 5 hurricanes come ashore in the United States this year. That's a big year. But we've had, if you look at the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration data, we've had 199 hurricanes that have come ashore since the year 1900. We've also had 28 years when we've had 3 or more hurricanes come ashore in a single year. 2024 is one of those years. And if you look at other data, the storms are not really getting stronger. They're about the same. And matter of fact, the number of hurricanes that have made landfall in the United States has actually been falling since about the year 1900. Again, this is NOAA data, but you're right. The news media reports all these things and basically says the wrong thing. If you read an article about weather that talks about climate change, it's most likely incorrect. So people really need to go a little deeper to understand what's going on.
Steve,
They do.
what impact do you think Trump administration will have on the green movement? I mean, you used to hear terms like carbon taxes. From what I understand, the day after the election, the stocks in the green movement went down.
Most of them did. Everyone except Tesla, and I'm not sure why that was. But you're right. For example, Plug Power, a big green hydrogen producer, went down 20% after he was elected. Yeah, this is going to be really big changes. A quote from Kamala Harris: "The climate change has become a climate crisis, and a threat has now become reality." Mr. Trump has said, quote, "I don't think it's a hoax, but I don't know that it's man-made." And he has said many things that he would like to do right off the bat. One of the things he wants to do is is stop the mandates for electric vehicles. That's going to be a little bit difficult because that comes from the Environmental Protection Agency, who have to get those people to take a step back. They've passed laws with regulations on the car companies, forcing them to emit less and less carbon dioxide emissions. But there's a lot of other things too. There's talk about restarting the Keystone Pipeline. President Biden shut down any new natural gas export terminals. I expect President Trump to restart those. As a matter of fact, even the Keystone Pipeline might be something that's restarted. We're really not. We still are pretty energy independent. We have world-leading levels of natural gas and crude oil production, despite the Biden administration. But President Trump has talked about taking off restrictions on federal land drilling and a lot of other things. So this idea that we ought to be building electric vehicles and wind and solar with metals imported from China instead of our own energy is probably going to take a big turn here with Mr. Trump in office.
What about fracking? Is that going to continue to be a vital part of our energy resource?
It will. It will continue to grow. Matter of fact, in some areas like Pennsylvania, where they do a lot of fracking, they're having trouble because the price of natural gas is so low. I've spoken to groups up there. What they really need is a gas export terminal in the area of the Delaware River, and they can ship a lot of that overseas. Another thing are these subsidies.
I was going to ask you about that.
Yeah, we've had levels of federal subsidies going to wind, solar, and biofuels and other things of about $15 billion over the last 10 years or so. Went down a little under Mr. Trump. But then the Biden administration passed the Inflation Reduction Act, which is going to increase that by 5 or 6 times if left to run. The Cato Institute projected that in fiscal year 2025, that $15 billion would go up to $80 billion in subsidies. And so we have all of these systems like carbon dioxide capture and carbon dioxide pipelines and green hydrogen and even EV charging stations, which don't make any money, that are relying on all this federal money. So if that is shut off, and Mr. Trump has said that he's going to stop the money that isn't already spent or allocated, he's going to shut down from the Inflation Reduction Act. So that's why the stock prices of a lot of these green companies are going down.
Well, there's also the Democratic states that are having all these economic benefits from new factories and power plants, from all the taxpayer, funding on that also. The amount of power that these power plants can give out compared to, say, a nuclear plant or, say, to a clean coal burning plant is a fraction of what we would need for a normal city or town to operate.
Yeah, I think we've discussed that before. We've talked about the imbalance that's coming between the amount of electricity to be demanded and the amount that we can supply, driven by green initiatives like switching to EVs, but also the artificial intelligence revolution. And so we have big companies like Microsoft right now that has a contract to help restart one of the 3 Mile Island plants in Pennsylvania. We have Meta and Google and Oracle. All of these big guys building data centers and upgrading them to do artificial intelligence. And so we have a tremendous demand for electricity now. And as you say, wind and solar can't do it. These AI servers and data centers require that they run 24 hours a day for weeks on end. And so we have a shortage of electrical power. And again, this is in addition to Mr. Trump, this is going to put a crunch on the green movement. We are already extending coal-fired power plants that were due to be closed. They're restarting nuclear plants, and this is going to go on and on.
We have the left now pushing for all this because it's a multi-billion-dollar business. So it's not doing it out of the goodness of their heart. It's not an altruistic reason. It's follow the Benjamin reason. And I think this is what the public is starting to smell. But then you have several Democratic governors have said that's because Trump is now coming into office. They're calling their legislatures back into session to keep and lock themselves in and against anything that Trump may do. So you
Oh,
have
boy.
someone like Gavin Newsom, Gruesome Newsom,
Yeah.
as I call him, who wants only electric trucks in California, who only wants the greenest of green in California, who is now telling oil companies that they have to have so much reserve, and now the oil companies are fleeing and they can only sell
Yep.
at a certain price. He's killing the energy industry in California, and you've got all these other Democratic governors following in lockstep behind him.
I think they're going to have a ratepayer revolt in California. Electricity rates have gone up 50% over the last 3 years in California. And if you have a home, a medium-sized home, and you run an air conditioner in July and August, it costs you $1,000 a month for electricity. I mean, it's going to go much, much higher with all these green policies. And as you say, they have a forest fire problem, but what are they doing? To put in all this wind and solar, you have to put in vast amounts of transmission, because it takes 100 times the land of a coal or a gas or a nuclear plant. So they're building transmission everywhere, and those are the things that tend to start the fires. Go figure. It's just not a good situation.
Now, I was reading a recent study, it was about a month or so ago, that the solar farms actually become a climate vortex, where if you're living near a solar farm, you're going to find yourself more prone to storms in your area. And I had mentioned this to a couple of friends, and they said, you know what? Ever since that solar farm went up, that was right down the street from me, we have a lot more rain than we've had in the past. And it's been a lot more wind in the area than in the past. But we're finding now these solar farms actually become a climate vortex. Right?
Well, maybe. I haven't really seen that kind of data. I do know
I gotta
that
see if I can find that and send that to you. I gotta make a note.
Sure, that'd be great. That they affect the local environment, of course, because something like the Ivanpah solar facility covers something like 5 square miles in area, and so you build this over the desert where all the plants used to be and where the animals used to be, and it interrupts the environment locally. A big problem we're having though now is we're getting more and more of these solar installations out there, and they're starting to be destroyed with a pretty high frequency rate by weather. They're not like a power plant that has a roof over the top. We just had two big plants destroyed by hail in the last year and a half. One was in Scotts Bluff, Nebraska. Your viewers can go online and read about that. But this big hail came down, just destroyed all the solar system. It was only online for like 2 years. There was another one, and that was last June of last year. Then we had one in Texas, March of this year, Fort Bend County, just west of Houston, that was destroyed as well. And the insurance cost to rebuild it is over $100 million to do that. We had tornadoes from Hurricane Milton in Florida that were spawned, and they went and destroyed another big solar field. So these things are not really weatherproof kind of things, and the insurance rates are skyrocketing right now. I'm in the process of writing an article about this, but it's going to be very, very tough to get insurance for these big solar installations, particularly in the areas of the country that are prone to hail, which is most of the Midwest.
Well, of course, now that insurance rate, the corporation doesn't pay that. The utility user is the one that pays it. So if you think you're paying $1,000 now, wait until you see next year's bill.
Yeah, it could be. Yeah, the ratepayers get socked for a lot of this stuff, depending on what the contracts are. But yeah, go ahead.
Well, no, one of the things is I found that the different groups that are now behind this green movement, and some of them, I'm turning around, I'm scratching my head, I'm going, wait a minute, you were formed to do X, Y, Z, and also now you are the leading proponent to block clean nuclear energy. And I'm talking about the California Teachers Union. It is the second largest anti-nuke group in the U.S. So instead of being more concerned about the education of the children in the school system, about safety in the classroom and making sure you have viable young adults coming into the community, you're worried about a nuclear power plant that's going to cut your energy cost and make your community more productive. Why are you wasting the union dues and our time on something that has nothing to do with what your union is about?
Well, the result may be that these companies that want to build data centers are going to move out of California. I think there's about 150 data centers in California, over 3,000 now in the United States, but they're building them in places where they can access nuclear power or electricity prices are low. Places like Indiana now and Iowa and North Carolina, they're building these data centers. These are these big companies. So if your state says we're not going to let you put in a nuclear power plant, they're just going to go to another state. That's sort of the nice competitive situation we have with various states, and it will add to the population that's moving out of California, I think.
I mean, California, Mexico, if the Mexicans now invade, we're going to give them California. Here, take it. It's yours.
Yeah, I wanted to ask about the future of nuclear power in this country. Of course, we had 3 Mile Island. We had the problems with the Russian nuclear plant and Fukushima in Japan. But I lived on a nuclear powered plant called the USS Nimitz. United States Navy used the nuclear power for, decades, and you never heard anything about, any problems with the nuclear power. So it is safe, but the liberals and the environmentalists have made nuclear power much, like they demonize guns, weapons, to the point that nobody, wants to build anything in this country that's nuclear power.
Yeah, there's still a lot of groups. You're right, Curtis. There's a lot of groups still opposing nuclear. I think the biggest problem is the cost is still relatively high. For example, the 2 nuclear plants put into Georgia cost a total of over $30 billion, and they were about a decade late. We're hoping that these small nuclear plants, like they have on an aircraft carrier, can be standardized, and they can get some cost breakthroughs, and they can become very competitive. But and also there are some of these new technologies prevent the plant from melting down if there's a problem with the cooling system. Things like I think it's molten salt reactors and some other things. So there are problems to be solved. But right now the big tech guys are going in for these things, Amazon and Microsoft and others. So it's going to be interesting to watch this develop.
Well, if we can get Elon Musk to get their Starlight or whatever it was into the hurricane area of North Carolina and get their communications up and running for emergency workers within a heartbeat, I'm sure he's going to find a way to do something with nuclear energy to get AI facilities and other electronic facilities up and running. So maybe him working with Trump should show a new age of energy in the United States. Just a thought. Just a thought. Anyway, some of these states have.
Well, we'll see. There are dozens of small nuclear companies now.
Really?
Dozens of small nuclear plant companies are working on this. Go ahead.
All right. Well, one of the things I was interested in is because a lot of these new energies we have require rare earth minerals and things such as lithium. But here, exploration for lithium, just lost Steve for a second. I'm going to continue with the question. Maybe he can hear it. The exploration for lithium is not widespread in the United States as it is in some other countries. So I was going to ask for his thought and input on it. But I see Steve had to dial back in. Let's bring him back up. There we go.
So what was your question again?
My question is that with the new batteries and everything else, they require rare earth materials and things such as lithium. And lithium in the United States is not a widely explored item yet. Do you see this now become something that can be explored here in the United States? Because you see it in Afghanistan and in other areas without the world, but not here in the United States.
It can be, and we do have a need for rare earth metals and things like lithium and copper, of course, and other things. Part of this is being driven by this effort to transition to renewable energy, because wind and solar and electric vehicles and the batteries for electric vehicles require a lot of metals. For example, electric vehicles require 6 times the special metals that a gasoline car requires. I think we're going to temper that a little bit with a new administration. And so I think we need to rely on our traditional energy sources more than the other ones. But we certainly could do more mining in the United States for a number of these metals. The thing is, it takes a long time to restart these, to get these mines. According, again, to the International Energy Agency, the average time to from first conception to actually delivering metal from a copper mine takes 16 years.
Wow.
So these are long-term kind of things. And if we really push to switch to renewables like the Biden administration wanted to do, we're going to end up importing all this from China, which isn't the best thing.
Well, I'm looking at the clock. We only got about 9 minutes left. But saying renewable energies is kind of like a misnomer, because whatever you need to produce this renewable energy, this green energy, such as the solar panels and these batteries, all are hazardous materials. And then how do you dispose of them, such as when the solar panels get shattered or the lithium batteries are no longer rechargeable? What do we do with all this hazardous waste? Aren't we doing more harm to the environment with these things than we are doing it with regular clean gas and nuclear power?
Yeah, it is a big issue, and people haven't really thought about it. And they're very hard to recycle, these batteries and solar panels. For example, in California right now, they're replacing a lot of the solar panels. They've been around for 15, 20 years. Now, a solar panel costs about $20 to $25 to recycle, but you only get about $4 worth of materials out of it. So it doesn't break even. And if you send it to a landfill, it costs you about $1 or $2. And another thing is car batteries. If you look at these car batteries, if we really made a transition to electric vehicles and the batteries wear out every 7, 8, or 9 years, we'd have millions and millions of these batteries. They're very hard to recycle. Matter of fact, we just had a recycling plant in Missouri in the last month and a half that burned up. It was full of all these batteries to be recycled from EVs, and one of them exploded, caught fire, and the whole plant burned up. So these things have a lot of issues, and you're right. Every energy source has its problems, but a lot of people aren't aware that solar panels and batteries and wind turbine blades are very tough to recycle, require huge landfill and all that sort of thing.
Well, I'm going to ask you this. Now, Trump is now putting together his team. And if you were to give him some advice and you would come on to his energy panel, what would be the advice that you find that would be the most poignant for him to help move this nation forward?
So one thing we should do is roll back the 2009 endangerment finding that was made by the Environmental Protection Agency on December 7th, 2009, a date that will live in infamy. The EPA ruled that carbon dioxide and other greenhouse gases threaten the public health and welfare of the current and future generations, which was really a faulty ruling, but it's the basis for all this climate stuff that we're doing now. So I would urge Mr. Trump and his people to go back and look at that endangerment finding. Carbon dioxide is not a danger to people. We breathe out 2 pounds a day, each one of us, from burning sugar in our body. That's 100 times what we breathe in. The news media says it's toxic. That's nonsense. It makes plants grow. So I would urge them to roll back the endangerment finding, and let's get back to sensible energy and climate policy.
All right. What about now NOAA, which usually was just following the weather patterns and stuff, and now they've gotten themselves involved with the green movement. What would you tell them with NOAA?
Well, again, that's kind of a tough thing. NOAA has adopted climatism. They get a lot of funding from it. And they're talking about how the storms are more severe. It really isn't if you look at their own data. Tornadoes, we don't have more tornadoes. I mean, there's just many, many things. So I think the Trump administration has to take a look at these things that are being said by many federal agencies and try and get back to sensible science on this. Climate is dominated by nature, not man-made emissions. We don't live in times that are abnormally warm. We should get back to reducing real pollution, carbon monoxide, ozone particulates, sulfur dioxides, nitrogen dioxides, things like plastic in the oceans, those sorts of things, not trying to suppress carbon dioxide emissions, which isn't going to have any effect anyway and shouldn't be done.
Well, I had to laugh because I was reading this Canadian article and it was citing how China was moving forward on green energy. And yet they completely ignore the fact that China is one of the largest polluters in the world, not only just with their emissions, but with the plastics they dump in the ocean. And I just was shaking my head. You're going to use China as an example. But the final question I ask you, and it's going to be just 3 letters, EPA. What?
Well, I think, again, the Trump administration needs to look at those policies, and they need to look at and he has talked about shutting off the EV mandates. To do that, he has to get the EPA to drop their policy about carbon dioxide regulations on the automakers. That's something that needs to be done. But I talk about a lot of this in my book, Green Breakdown, the Coming Renewable Energy Failure. And so I would urge folks to go out and go to my website, Steve Goreham, GOREHAM.com. I'll send them a signed copy. There are ebooks available as well. But they need to get a second look and not rely on what the media is telling them, which is often wrong.
Well, Steve, it's always a pleasure to have you on. It's always informational, and we always have a lot of fun.
Thank you, Ann. It's great to join you again.
It's our pleasure. God bless. All right,
Take care,
Steve Goreham. Check it out, SteveGoreham.com, and get his book. As I said, it was excellent read, up on the number 1 on this one. I'm concerned, the Green Breakdown, the Coming Renewable Energy Failure, which you can find on his website with all of his other wonderful books too. There's 3 others there that you can get also. That's the end of the show we got for today. We will be back next week, and I believe our guest will be AJ Rice. He's got a great book out, which I've got copies that I will be giving out to our listeners if they can answer some certain questions. The White Privilege album, he will be joining us next week. And with that, folks, that's all we got for the show. So we'll see you back here, same bat time, same bat station. Right, Curtis?
That's right.
Well,
same bat subject.
Until then, I say good night and God bless.
I'm praying for this land I love, America, America, the home of the free. But there are people making plans to change America. They've no respect for her or what matters most to me. That's why I stand for the flag and I kneel at the cross. Long for the friends I have loved and lost. And I still believe in God we trust, and the freedom our forefathers granted us. I hope it's not too late to save America. Do you hear our battle cry across America? We've got to rescue her. You know it's up to me and you to see the truth behind their lies. Don't change America. God bless America and the red, white, and blue. That's why I stand for the flag and I kneel at the cross. Long for the friends I have loved and lost. And I still believe in God we trust, and the freedom our forefathers granted us. I hope it's not too late to save America. America. Save America. Let's save America. Together we can save America.